Morning. Right, this bend here we've got problems with. We've got a huge gap in the track there, which on a bend bogies are rapping against it, and also at the other end, which you may not see, the fish plates are apart. Now what we've got here is flexi-track, and the reason I used flexi-track was I didn't have the correct track to do what I wanted to do. Now flexi-track is wonderful, but it's not as rigid as set track. You've got to put a lot more screws in. Anyway, I finally got what I want curve wise, and we're going to put some set track in here. And you can see that is lovely. Now the thing is, the bend on this, what I also found with this bend was that some tenders were a little bit tight on it. And the reason being is remember, a millimetre is 3 inches in the real world. 2 millimetres is 6 inches. Now with this set track, and I will show you now. Now you can't really see with the camera, but there's about 3 mil difference in the bend. That's the old track, the track that's down now, with the track, and you can see the bend is slightly different, and that is enough to affect a 4-wheel tender going around, and that is about 3 mil, maybe even 4. So by using the set track we'll get a smoother bend and fix the gap in the fish plates, which I will show you now. And here you've got a better view of the gap in the fish plates. Now this gap would not make a great deal of difference on a straight, but on a bend you can hear the front bogies catching, and as it gets wider and wider and wider you're going to get derailments. As I've said before, it is important to have scenery that you can move. It really is, and we'll show you. If you can take the wall away, Susan, please. It is important. And there you go. So we can get at the track without disturbing anything. And what we're going to do now is undo the screws and remove the track. I'm not going to video that because you've seen me undo screws enough. All I'm going to say to you is this: why people use tacks, because whatever model railway you have, at some stage you're going to have to lift the track. Remember, what track runs nicely on day 8, on day 95, it may not. It's as simple as that. Okay, the first thing you do is to get the track up, and what that, we've put a green towel over all our controllers. It's an expensive hobby, putting water into electrics, and you can see no enamel paint, water soaks in nice and easily. Now be aware that you put a little bit too much water in and you might end up staining sand, etc., which we have done a little bit on our layout. You try and keep it where you've got sand to a minimum of sand effect. Then you just put it on here and let it soak in, and you can see the difference. Whereas on my last video where you had enamel paint, it's soaking really, really nice. Anyway, the next trick is we see how loose it is, and it should be fairly easy to pull up because of, there you go. See, nice and easy. Just pull it up, don't go mad. It's a little bit here, if I can have a bit more water please. I'm doing this in real time so you can see what's going on. It's not like the Haynes manual with cars where they say remove screw X and the next clip is you see screw X is removed. What they don't tell you is you need a special tool to remove screw X. Anyway, so lots of hot, oh here we go, and you can see comes up really easy, and because this is flexi track here I haven't got a risk bending or damaging the point. It comes apart and this is what I want to take up, and it's quite easy really, and there we go. And that's why you use PVA, simply because it's so easy. Now because we've got here some washers that were used as to shim the track to make sure the level of the track is correct, because everything moves no matter how how wonderful your board is before or how well you lay your cork, everything moves. Anyway, you don't want to watch me lift up washers. Thank you. Okay, now what we do now is we put a little bit more hot water on, because the softer you make this, the easier it is to take up, and you don't want to really risk catching anything else. That's the thing. You don't want to risk damage anything else or destroying your buildings or your electrics. The water on the grass, that'll dry, it's not going to stain it, that's easy. So basically all you do now is just wait a few minutes for the water, the heat of the water to working, and loosen the track ballast. Okay, the next thing you do is use a small scraper just to take up the ballast, and you can see it comes up fairly easily. And if your scraper's too wide, you use a wide screwdriver. There's nothing saying you've got to use a wide, see that looks a little bit wide, you use a screwdriver. But you can see it comes up fairly easily, and when you do it, you make sure you get every piece of ballast up, every piece, because remember, you lift your track a millimetre at the end, by the time it's gone along 4 centimetres, it's lifted more than that. It's so important that you make sure that everything is clear and the track can lay as flat as it can. What we're doing here in the smaller areas, we're using the wide screwdriver, because what we don't want to do is we don't want to damage anything else, because the worst thing is to try and sort something out and then you damage something else and it doubles the time you're wasting sorting out where your collateral damage is. But as I say, you've got to make sure that you've got enough room for the track and it will lay flat. And you can see here it's fairly easy, just making sure that everything is flat, and we'll show you when we're done. Thank you. You can see that the track is nice and clean. Can I have a fish plate please? What we're going to do now is put the new track in place and see how it looks. And as I've said, you really do need to make sure that you have nothing on the track. I'm having trouble pushing this in here, so I'm going to have to pull this out here. Have another go. It's important that everything butts up perfectly, and there you can see it has. Now when you do track, you don't cheat with a bend or do that or move it around. You push it in and you make sure that everything is nice and straight, and you can see that that is nice. That is a nice bend. In fact, it's more than nice actually. And you can see that there is absolutely flush, straight on with the bend, and that's the important thing. If it's not, forget it, all bets are off. All bets are off. It's got to be dead straight. You've got to make sure, if you struggle because of your eyes, you can use a small ruler or even this to make sure it's straight, your spirit level, to make sure that everything is dead straight. And there's a small ruler, because it needs to be, because if you've got it like that, you're going to just have your front bogey bury into it and it's going to come off the track, or you're going to lose your front bogey. It's so important where the track meets, it's horizontal, and on the parallel everything is correct. Thank you. Now what you do is, once you've got your track in place where you want it to be, you put a couple of screws in. Now this is not a permanent thing, but when you're working out what you need next, you need your track in the right place, and you need it so it will not move. And as I say, the great thing about screws is, and why I say to people, don't bother with tacks, a couple more screws please, is because you can lift everything off. because obviously I'm going to have to shim it, make sure it's correct. But you put the screws in and hold it down and make sure everything stays in position. Put one here where it meets the track, and also it makes sure the fish plates stay in line. So I've got some track here. I'll make sure that that is buttered in as it should be. If I can have another screw, please. And you decide where it's going to meet the next piece of track, which is going to be there. Now, the one thing you don't do is you don't cheat to make things work. I.e. here, I could cheat with a bit of straight and bend things round, but that is just going to be, it just isn't going to work. So you need to do it in such a manner. Now this is going to need flexi track. Just a small bend on it to make sure it works. But don't cheat by putting a straight on, by bending this round or cheating with this. It's a fool's errand. It just does not work. Anyway, we'll carry on. Now what you do with your flexi is you make sure that A, you've got the fish plates in good and tight. Rock tight. And it's just going to be a very, very slight curve here. Very, very slight. One you would hardly notice. So first thing you do is you get some track cutters and you cut the track. Which are these. Now I'm not going to do it exactly to the size I want because I want to have a look at it, but it gives me more. Here, I've got that in right. Oh, no, I haven't. There you go. That's it. And it gives you an idea. If you do it in stages, it's easier than botching it up and doing it in one hit. And because this is a short piece of track, you've got to be a little bit careful that you keep everything as it should be. I'm going to take it off. And what it's worth doing is just cutting off the sleepers here. You can put them back, so don't worry about that. You can slide them back or file them back and put them underneath, so you can see exactly what you're looking at. Put this back on the fish plate. But getting this right is important, because the track really does have to butt in tight because it's off a bend. Anyway. Now what I've done is I've used the cutters to cut the track across. Filming it, we've done it before and people moan they can't see what's happening, so I'm just telling you what's happened. I've lined it up and I've used these and I've cut the track. So I'm now going to dress the track, which is a simple job with a file. If I can just show. Okay, we've put the track in place and we're just doing a quick check, and you test. And there goes Paddington. No problems at all. Okay, we've put the track in place and we're just doing a quick check, and you test. And there goes Paddington. No problems at all. Okay, we've put the track in place and you can see everything is good and tight. Nice bend. And now the test is, if we can find the spirit level. No spirit level, no track. Oh, it is. Is you need to make sure it's level. And that is not level. So, what you do, loosen the screws a little bit. See where you're at. Actually, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the way you level it is washers, 1mm washers, and we can see that needs to have one in there, I think. It's all simple stuff. Slot it in. There we go, level. It's not level at all, is it, dear? Put another one in. Level. And you run it round and you run it round. Now the thing is, what's happened here? I think that was old track, it's brand new. And you can see something on that. Let's clean it off. You've got to be able to put the spirit level along it properly, otherwise you're wasting your time. And bear in mind that when you've done this and you've screwed it down, you're going to have to recheck it. And there, that's awful. God, that is awful. So, where's the green handled screwdriver? I tend to do it manually when I'm shimming the track because I've got a lot more control and sensitivity. Can I have some more screws, please? Over what I'm doing. Because that's more important than speed and pace. I mean, just undoing screws is fine, but I want to have more control over what's happening when I'm getting this track level, because it's got to be level, otherwise you're wasting your time. I need another washer. And you just slide it in easy, nice and simples. But you don't have the track down too tight, otherwise you're going to buckle it. There we go. And that's pretty cool. A tiny bit of movement, as long as it is flat, especially off the point. Perfect. A little bit out there still. Another washer, please. Now here I'm going to put some railway sleepers back, because what will happen is it will sag at the fish plates. God knows why, but it does on occasions. So I'm going to put this under here, which will go fine. Under the fish plates, there we go. I've actually fired it out a bit so it will go. I'm also not happy with the way that fish plate is on there. So we'll move it along a little bit, there we go. And we'll give it a go now. Another washer, please. Fire that in there. Put it under both of those. Now that might be a bit. Now I'm going to have to loosen the screw a little bit. Just a tad. I mean, that might be a bit too much. Actually, it's not. It's perfect. And that's pretty good. So's that. So by undoing the screw, And that's basically how you do it, how you make sure your track is level. And that is beautiful, that is absolutely gorgeous. I'll put some more screws in. But you don't drive them in tight. In case you can have some more washers. Now with these washers, I'm putting them in the gap, so when I put the screws in, where it's loose, I can put washers in and not affect it. So I have there. There might not be a gap, but where you've got gaps that are big enough, you put the washers in to make sure that when you screw it down, the track doesn't buckle. Now, when you've got cork that's, I would say, virgin cork for want of words, i.e. it's never been wet, you're putting it down new, then obviously these things don't apply. But when you've pulled stuff up, you need to make sure that the track is as rigid as it can be under the circumstances. Spirit level. Oh, I've got it. And you can see that is pretty damn level. Now you may think, well, why is he worried about making it level on a bend when it's a bend? Well, the simple reason is, where you've got carriages that are going round and they're pulling, it causes them to twist if the track isn't level. Another screw please. If the track isn't level, it causes the carriage to twist. And that twisting can cause a derailment before a point. That's coming on really nice. Another screw. Anyway, you've seen me put screws in before, thank you. Okay, well I've put the washers in and I've shimmed the track, and you will see that it is pretty much level. And it's so important to get it level. Look at that, I mean that is lovely, especially going on to the point, which it isn't. Actually it is, it's just where I've pushed it down. It is, it's just where I've pushed it down. Yeah, it is. Phew. But you can see that that is pretty much level. Now obviously what you need to do is you need to run various locomotives over it and to make sure that everything runs fine. Now obviously you've got gaps here, you fill it with the ballast. You've seen it, I've done loads of ballasting videos. You fill it with the ballast, pack the ballast in, and then you glue it and it will hold the track in place. Now the one thing I'd like to add is, even if you're using brand new cork on a board, you still may need to shim your track to make sure that it is absolutely level. Not as much as this, because this cork is old and it's, you know, track's been up and down a few times, and obviously expansion, contraction, etc. But when you're building a new railway, you still may need to shim the odd piece of track. But that is pretty much 100% level, 98% level, which is perfect. Here it's level, which I thought it wasn't. Very important on a point. Here, very, very important on a point where you've got an insill frog, because what will happen is a small loco will stop. And if I dig out a small loco, just to demonstrate to you that there is nothing wrong with it. Here we go. That's a very small loco. Do it up by hand. Oh, what's been turned off? It should be okay. Is power on? Yes. Here we go. And just to demonstrate, And there you can see. And that is very, very small, and you can see I'm running that really, really slowly. And that's the test, and that is one of the reasons it has to be absolutely flat with the spirit level. This is the problem people have. They put their track down and it's not dead flat, and what will happen is on this insel frog it will tilt and the loco will not run, and you can see that is really, really nice. And we bring it up to here and you can see that is the same. And on the track you can see that is nice and smooth. No jerking, no tilting. Not run at all now, there you go. I mean, look at that. That is absolutely gorgeous. And the reason it stopped before is because that is old track and it's dirty, but that's perfect. And as I say, the most important thing is the spirit level, more than anything else. I'm not going to show you us ballast it because I've done loads of ballasting videos. You've seen how you ballast, but basically you ballast the track as you've seen in the past. Once it's dry overnight, you put the spirit level across again to make sure that your track is level because of expansion and contraction. Thank you for watching, and I hope this video has been of help to you. Thank you.